everyone, it's Autumn. Today I want to talk about my fragrance picks for winter. So many of you may know that I have a ton of perfumes. I'm looking over at my shelf right now and I have 4 shelves right now, each one like full of perfume in this huge bookcase. And I would say that I have between 200 and 300 fragrances. So with that being said, I actually find it difficult with that many fragrances to choose what I'm gonna wear each day because there's too many options and I end up just grabbing something like an easy grab. So I decided that seasonally now I'm going to choose fragrances out of all of those to wear each season. And so the first couple that I'm going to talk about are fragrances that for the most part, I enjoy year round. And then I think like because there's like a total of like 15 or 16 here. And then the last 10 are ones that I specifically chose for this season to wear. As I was doing my like sort of research to do this video after I chose my fragrances, I noticed that there is a lot of overlay in notes. And I even wrote down the notes that I feel like there's overlay in. And so when it comes to the florals in here, I've noticed that obviously they're deeper florals. And typically I'm not somebody who likes jasmine a whole lot, but I noticed that in the winter, jasmine is more bearable for me to wear. And I noticed I have, 5 different floral notes here, and you will find them in almost every single fragrance. Well, not all of them together, but at least one of them in each fragrance. So I've got ylang ylang, lavender, rose, saffron, and jasmine. All of which, when it comes to florals, can lean a little bit on the heavier side, which of course when it comes to perfume, it's all about the formula and the other notes that they put with it. So obviously you can have a springtime rose and it's typically put with, you know, like some citrus notes and some lighter things to kind of lift it up, right? But in the winter, it's all about what they pair those things with. And same thing with the fruits that I have. I noticed that in the winter, I tend to lean towards cherry, orange, bergamot, like those sorts of things, which again, obviously you can have in the summer. I think that cherry fragrances though tend to be a little bit deeper, but orange and bergamot, you can find those like year round. And then I've also noticed that in the winter, I am a little bit more open to creamier scents, like not powdery per se. There are some notes that I find in some of these that typically are a little bit more powdery, but when paired with heavier things instead of light florals, I tend to be okay with it in the winter time. So again, almost every single scent has vanilla, tonka, or amber in it. And tonka a lot of the times tends to be a little bit more like powdery. I hate to say powdery, but it is. It does tend to be like more creamy. So a lot of these notes are adding in like a creaminess, and then same with the wood. So I love like woody scents. And I found that a lot of these fragrances tend to have sandalwood, which is more creamy. Also, these fragrances, a lot of them have almond in it, which again, leans a little bit heavier, a little bit more creamy. And then leaning more into the holiday season and like the sort of winter feel, I noticed that a lot of these fragrances have fir balsam in them or like fir resin, and they also have myrrh. Like a lot of them contain myrrh. And also typically in the summer months, my fragrances don't tend to have like spice notes in them like nutmeg, cinnamon, clove, like those sorts of notes, and quite a few of these fragrances contain those. So with all of that being said, I'm sure that you probably just came here just for me to show you the fragrances that I've chosen, so I'm just gonna go ahead and jump into it. So these first 4 fragrances I'm showing you are kind of like the fragrances that I would consider my dumb reaches. Like they're just fragrances that a lot of the times any time of year, even like in the spring and summer, I might end up wearing them since they're a little bit heavier like in the evenings, but they're just ones that I can typically reach for quite a bit. And you'll also notice that almost all of these fragrances are leaning a little bit more sweet, not quite gourmand, just because I don't feel comfortable wearing a lot of gourmand fragrances, but these are a lot sweeter than I would typically wear. So the first fragrance I want to talk about is the Hermes. This is the Elixir de Merveille. I always say anything French wrong because I'm an uncultured swine. So anyway, this to me is like a very sweet sort of winter holiday scent. And again, it has like orange peel, amber, caramel, peru balsam, cedar, oak, patchouli, incense, sandalwood, tonka bean, vanilla, sugar. It's a super sweet, like ambery, orangey scent without leaning over into gourmand. And I think it's the resin, like the incense, the patchouli, and there's a siam resin, which I'm pretty sure is just another name for benzoin. I could be wrong. But anyway, I think that is what keeps it out of being like a gourmand or like super, like overly syrupy sweet scent. It does have an earthiness to it while still being sweet. So then there is Baccarat Rouge 540. I feel like this is everybody's go-to scent for over the last year. The scent has really blown up. And what's interesting, again, this has saffron in it, which is one of the floral notes that I mentioned that tends to be in a lot of fragrances that I enjoy. But it's got saffron, jasmine, amberwood, ambergris, fir resin, and cedar in it. And this actually has a sweetness to it, like a really earthy sweetness to it from the fir resin. And at first I was smelling it and I was thinking that it was like almost like a citrus or an orange. But the more I've smelled it and gotten used to like wearing it and like my body has gotten used to it, it definitely is like a sappy sort of sweetness from like a fir tree. And it's just like a really interesting mixture that it's really interesting that they're able to make it that sweet just from the notes that are in there, which I'm sure there are other notes they didn't mention because I have I think I remember some of the dupe houses mentioning orange as a scent, but the more I smell it, the less I actually think there's orange in it. The next one is one of my favorites for like layering. If something is like a little bit too sharp or masculine, I can always throw this on. And this is the Atelier Cologne Vanille and Sensei. And this is not just a straight up vanilla. So I went on a hunt for a vanilla fragrance and I purchased like probably 15 over the last several months. And this I had a couple years ago and I ran out of it. And I was like, why am I searching for a vanilla fragrance when I know exactly the vanilla fragrance that I absolutely love? And the reason I love this one is like, yes, it's a vanilla fragrance, but the other stuff in it makes this vanilla, I would say it's unisex for sure, but it also makes this vanilla, it's not a dirty vanilla like patchouli and what have you. And it's not a gourmand vanilla. It's not like one that like smells like baking. And it's not like a boozy vanilla. It's kind of in a class of its own. It has lime, citron, coriander, vetiver, oak moss, jasmine, vanilla, oak, and amber in it. And it's absolutely gorgeous. I keep smelling it because that is hands down my favorite vanilla ever made. I'm gonna take a sip of this disgusting health juice I made myself. Healthy. So the next one is a pretty new fragrance in the fragrance world, but I feel like everybody is talking about it right now. And this is the YSL Libre Intense. So I prefer the Intense version because I find it to be deeper and sweeter than the regular one. The regular one is like a lighter lavender scent, but this has lavender, mandarin orange, bergamot, more lavender in the mid notes, Tunisian orange blossom, jasmine sambac, orchid, vanilla, tonka bean, ambergris, and vetiver. And this is the sexiest lavender smell I have ever smelled. Like, it's sexy while also kind of like being powerful. So it's not like sexy in a way to where what you would typically think sexy. This to me just smells like a really confident woman. And as you can tell, I've already used quite a bit of it. And I've purchased a backup as well. The next fragrance is Love by Kilian, the Don't Be Shy. And this is probably, I would say, like the most gourmand out of all the fragrances I'm gonna mention today. I wouldn't say it's quite gourmand because it's not heavy. A lot of the times, like gourmand to me tends to be a little bit heavier, and this isn't, but it's like, to me it reminds me of like gummy candies. But it's so, I don't know, it's just beautiful. It has neroli, bergamot, pink pepper, coriander, orange blossom, jasmine, honeysuckle, rose, iris, sugar, vanilla, caramel, musk, civet, and labdanum. So this next one is really interesting to me. And this I kind of put with the Dumb Reaches, just because I find it to be one of those that I can reach for. It's a good day fragrance for me, even though it's pretty deep. And I think it's because typically the note in it, tuberose, tends to be more in springtime fragrances, but they've really deepened this up. And this is the Giorgio Armani My Way Intense, and this has orange blossom, bitter orange, Indian tuberose, vanilla, and sandalwood. And I typically don't like tuberose scents that much, but this is very tuberose, like a bubblegummy tuberose, and it's just beautiful. Again, like, I don't know if you can tell, like, I've had this for probably only a couple of weeks and I've used a fair amount of it. All right, so now we are going to get into the fragrances that I have specifically picked out for winter. 3 of them are from Commodity, and many of you know I love Commodity. And the first one I want to talk about is Milk Plus. Oh my gosh, this to me, this smells like marshmallows. So it's got milk, marshmallow, natural musk, white cedar, woody notes, and amber. And to me, this smells very similar to By the Fireplace by Maison Martin Margiela. Only this doesn't have that smoky campfire note to it that one has. And also the longevity on this one is much longer. I've used quite a bit of this one as well since I purchased it, and I've maybe had it for a month, but this has already been something that I've been grabbing and going for just because it's one of those that I think would be pleasing to everyone because it's deep and woody while still being like sweet. It has that marshmallow note in it. It's a really nice fragrance. The next one I have from them is their Gold Plus, and the plus means that it's from their bold line. So they have split their fragrances up. They have the originals in the middle. The one with a minus is like, they're more like skin scents, or they're for the person wearing them that just kind of wants to smell like pleasant and clean, but they're not trying to be smelled by everybody in the room. And then this bold line is pretty much for somebody who wants a very bold fragrance and they don't care if everybody in the room smells them, and they're quite strong. It's kind of like their version of doing an intense fragrance. So anyway, this has amber, sandalwood, vanilla, ISOE super, more vanilla apparently because it's in the the second line in the mid notes, saffron, patchouli, and nutmeg. And it's just a beautiful vanilla scent. And I think though, with it having the saffron and patchouli and the ISOE super in it, it pulls it away from being like a kitchen vanilla, if that makes sense, like a cooking vanilla. It's more earthy than that, but it's still it's a beautiful vanilla fragrance. And then the third Commodity scent is Commodity Velvet. I've had this one for, I think, when they were trying to get rid of, I think, the old types of bottles, they had a buy one get one free sale several months back, and I got this one and I believe Bois. Anyway, this scent, it's rose. Like, you smell it and it's rose, but it's not like your grandma's rose. It doesn't go like super powdery or soapy, which those roses are perfectly fine. I don't want to insult anybody here, but this rose, to me, it smells like very sophisticated and rich, and the name Velvet is perfect for it because when I smell this, it brings to mind like one of those, like a picture of one of those old underground sort of like speakeasies or men's clubs with like the velvet and the leather chairs. It is so nice. This has almond, cloves, coconut nectar, rose petals, vanilla flower, heliotrope, white woods, birch, and black amber. This just smells rich to me. It's so nice. I am not a huge rose person, and I probably have, I don't know, probably 2 or 3, I think 3 rose scents that I really like, and this is one of the 3. The rest of the rose scents that I have around that are predominantly rose are just like the scents that I have that I'm trying to convince myself that maybe eventually my nails will start liking them. But this one, I loved it right away. Oh. So this next scent, I don't know if or when you'll be able to get your hands on it again, but this is Beauty Pie's Balade and Foret. And originally it was supposed to be limited edition, but then I just looked to where I could get the notes for it on the Beauty Pie website, and they are trying to restock it. So if you missed out on this the first time and you want to know more about it, I did do a video reviewing it up here. Go ahead and check that out. I've also done videos where I have reviewed all of Beauty Pie scents, and if you want to check that out, I'll also have that up here for you. Anyway, this particular scent is the most wintry of scents I've ever smelled, while still not like being like too, I don't know, I almost want to say cheesy, or like, you know how like some scents are like themed scents, like Maison Martin Margiela, and they tell you what it is and you smell it and you're like, oh yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's kind of like they have like a, what am I trying to say here? They have a gimmick. Like they kind of seem gimmicky almost. I think that's the word I was going for. This isn't like that. So this translates to a walk in the forest. And that's pretty much all they put out there and said it was. But the minute I smelled this, with the notes in here, which I will tell you: bergamot oil, fir, vegetal, gentian absolute, balsam fir absolute, cashmere wood, cedar wood oil, moss, ambery woody, guaiac wood. They listed their notes in a weird way. But anyway, to me, with the bergamot and the fir, this reminds me, because it definitely is orangey. I'm gonna spray this tissue here. Yeah, it's like orange zest, not the inside of the orange. To me, this smells like you have your fireplace going, you have your Christmas tree, and you've got a stocking with oranges in it, which typically a long time ago, before we started like putting like jewelry and stuff in stockings, they used to like just put fruit and oranges and things like that in stockings. It brings me to an old-timey sort of Christmas, like a Christmas of the past. I don't know. I just love it. It's perfectly unisex. It's just a beautiful smell. And many of you, if you've been watching my channel for a while, you'll know that when I did the Beauty Pie fragrance overview, that I didn't like pretty much any of their other scents. This is the best scent that they have made. They put it in a smaller bottle, charged more money for it, and made it limited edition. And it's the best one they've made. So anyway, they need to bring that back, which they are, but hopefully they bring it back in a bigger bottle too. Oh. So this next scent is one that I feel like everybody owns it, and it's Tom Ford Black Orchid. So this has like a wide array of notes, and I feel like in the summer it smells completely different, because right now I've sprayed it, I have it on my hand here, and the citrus is actually performing really well. I smell the citrus, which typically I don't smell in this, especially in the summer when it's like really heavy. It's too much for the summer. But I feel like fragrances just kind of disappear in the winter and you want a heavier fragrance. This, I mean, is thriving right now. So anyway, it has truffle, gardenia, black currant, ylang ylang, jasmine, bergamot, mandarin orange, amalfi lemon, orchid, spices, gardenia, fruity notes, ylang ylang, jasmine, lotus, Mexican chocolate, patchouli, vanilla, incense, amber, sandalwood, vetiver, and white musk. And right out of the bottle, it smells super deep, but on my hand right now, it's nice and it still has like that deepness and that earthiness to it. But I feel like the citrus is like just shining. It's like, it's beautiful right now. So that one has so many notes, and it reminds me a lot of, yeah, because I don't think that has oak moss in it, but the way that it's made with like everything but the kitchen sink in it reminds me a lot of the older sorts of chypre scents. And I find that those wear way differently on the skin depending on the time of year. Like different notes come to the forefront depending on what time of year it is and the humidity and, you know, how hot or cold it is outside. So this is one of those fragrances that smells different year round. I think I would still wear it like in like the spring and summer at night, but definitely not during the day. It's not really a daytime fragrance for me. So the next one is from Lancome, and it's called Oud Bouquet, and this is from the Maison Lancome line. And this has oud, praline, vanilla, rose, and saffron. And this just smells like $1,000,000. Like it definitely is, you definitely get the oud from it, but you get the sweetness from the praline. Oh my gosh. And then the vanilla, the rose, the saffron, this is just beautiful. Like this to me smells like a rich person, like, which I wanna smell like a rich person. I'm gonna spray it on my other hand. Oh, that's my wrist. I was trying to avoid the sweater. Oh my gosh, this smells so good. And it, with the oud mixed with the rose, this definitely has like a Middle Eastern, almost like head shop vibe. But it's like elevated, it smells like wealthy. Oh my gosh, I love it. So next is one I never hear anybody talk about. This is Valentino Valentino, Myrrh Assoluto. So I have the oud one as well, which I assumed that would be my favorite between the two, but it's not, it's this one. This has myrrh, vanilla, leather, ylang ylang, musk, and jasmine in it. When it settles into the skin and goes down, it's a super sweet, sort of earthy scent. I'm still smelling this on my arm, so I need to like move to the other arm. Let me get another tissue and spray it on a tissue. I do have, actually I have scent strips right here. I don't know why I'm pulling out the Kleenex. Hold on. Oh my gosh, I can't stop smelling the other one. Okay. Yeah, so the myrrh and the ylang ylang on this one, this is just nice. And although this one's marketed to women, this 100% could be a unisex scent. Like I would not be mad if my husband smelled like this. Oh, it's so nice. So then the last three are more affordable options if everything else that I mentioned you find to be too expensive, which I find the Beauty Pie one, if you remember, is actually pretty inexpensive. But everything else I mentioned, I think all of them are, yeah, every other fragrance I mentioned, which I didn't realize this, are above $100. This one retails for above $100, but I feel like you can get good deals on this, like through FragranceNet and things like that. And you can score a bottle for under 100. But for the most part, those are kind of pricey. So if you were looking for something that still smells really good, I do suggest checking out Dossier, which Dossier has dupes for 1, 2, 3, 4 of the ones I mentioned before. They have a dupe for the Baccarat Rouge, the YSL Libre, the Black Orchid, and the Kilian Love Don't Be Shy. So Dossier does make alternatives for those. I have done a video in the past talking about all 28 of the Dossier fragrances that I own, and I will leave that linked here. And I've also done a video where I talk about the ethics of fragrance dupes. So a lot of people kind of want to gatekeep it, and they don't like it when somebody comes in and they make a dupe. I share all of my thoughts in that video, which I will have linked here if you want to know my thoughts and the ethics behind these dupe fragrance houses. I have it all laid out for you there if you're curious, so I'm not going to really talk about it here in this video, but I will talk about Dossier here. And this first fragrance is their version of Santal 33, which they named it something else since I've purchased mine. It was Oriental Woody 8 and now it's called something else. This has violet accord, cardamom, iris, ambrox, papyrus, cedarwood, leather, sandalwood. So for the most part, this one is just a beautiful creamy woody scent. Perfectly unisex, and I think perfectly for everyday wear. If you wanted to have a go-to everyday fragrance, I think this is perfectly acceptable. It's also one of those, if I wanted to sweeten it up, I would pair it with this, and that's a killer combo. So it just kind of depends on your preferences. So then the next one I have is Oriental Sage, which is their dupe for Tom Ford's Fabulous. So this one has bitter almond, sage, lavender, leathery notes, orris, vanilla, amber, blonde woods, and tonka. And the orris and the tonka and the amber and the almond, like all together, this is a super, super creamy fragrance. It's still woody at the same time, but it's like a super creamy sort of woody fragrance. And it just smells beautiful. So typically I would say in the summer, I probably wouldn't reach for this as much because again, it is super creamy, but for the colder weather, this is just a beautiful, comforting scent. So again, perfectly unisex. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous smell. And then the last one I have is Tom Ford's. It's like a version of Tom Ford as well, and it is Lost Cherry. Dossier calls it Oriental Cherry. And this has cherry, almond, cinnamon, cloves, rose, jasmine, plum, Peru balsam, tonka, and vanilla. And earlier in the video, when I talked about all of the notes that I would typically find in my fragrance picks, I went through and I like highlighted those notes that were present in these, and every single note in this one is highlighted except for plum, which again, plum is like a winter sort of fruit fragrance. Every single note, this is 100% a winter fragrance for me, at least for me, especially with the cinnamon and the cloves and all of that. It has the almond, which makes it creamy. The cherry is kind of like a deeper sort of fruit scent. It's got the jasmine, even the Peru balsam, like everything about this to me screams holiday fragrance. To me, this smells, it smells like if somebody were trying to make a fruit cake into like a sexy scent. Like if they were to try to combine those, again, reaching for tissue when I have these. Yeah, if you just want to smell like a sexy fruitcake, definitely, I mean, you could do the Tom Ford or this one. This one obviously is more affordable. Or if you just want to know if you like the scent, you could always purchase this one first and go for the Tom Ford later. These two scents that I have from Dossier, the Santal 33 and Effing Fab, at some point, I'm definitely probably gonna purchase the originals. I like these two so much. I got rid of all the cherry scents in my fragrance collection except for this one. And for me, this is just 100% a holiday time scent. And so I know I'm probably not gonna end up buying the full size of this just because I know that I'm only gonna be wearing it around the holidays. And this is perfectly fine just for the holidays. I hope you enjoyed my fragrance picks. Go ahead and leave below two things. Tell me below what your fragrance picks are for this winter, and then also tell me what notes that you have found that make up the perfect winter scents. Similar to how I kind of like broke down all the scents I picked and went by the notes and noticed a lot of similarities. So just go ahead and let me know what comes to mind for you when you think of a winter scent in the comments below, and you can talk amongst yourselves down there. Anywho, I hope you all are having a great holiday season, and I will talk to you in the next one. Bye.
as I'm trying to get your attention. Giving you a smile, I can seem to